How's it going, welders on YouTube? Today I'll be reviewing the Capital Robotics robotic welding course that I recently took here in Dallas, Texas. Now, there's going to be two reviews. First one is short and sweet. As an employee, having my employer pay for this class, it was a great class. Got something out of it, and I appreciate anyone who helps me get knowledge for free. But now, reviewing it with a more critical eye, I'm going to look at this class as a former educator myself. I used to teach at the College of Southern Nevada. I taught welding for a year. If you don't believe me, there goes a photo of it right there. And to teach at any college, for that matter, you need one of these. This is an OSHA 30, and this will become relevant a little bit later on in the review. So, without further ado, let's get into it.
I'm sorry, Dave.
Okay, so a quick overview of the structure of the 4-day course at Capital Robotics. And sorry, reading off a piece of paper makes it a little bit easier on me. So, split in 4 days. Day 1 was safety and basic programming. And forgive me, I might not get these exactly right, but that was the gist if I remembered everything. Day 2 was advanced programming and practice moving the robot around, driving the robot. Day 3, we were just welding all day, really just one joint, a T-joint. And last thing we were doing on day 4 was more welding, and they kind of briefly talked about how to sync the welder with different turntables and other things like that. And that was about it. Oh yeah, day 4 maybe had I wouldn't call it basic maintenance, but I guess he'd let us know certain things needed to be maintained. Now, if you had never touched a robot before, I would say that this class is an unfortunate necessity. It's easier to get from A to B just having somebody show you. But if you have some experience using a robot like a Fanuc, or you've looked over somebody's shoulder with one of these and the robot is actually working, you should be able to get it moving and get a program going without any help whatsoever. The problem we have at the company that I'm at is the robot hasn't been turned on in probably over a year, so it's airing out. So unfortunately, we have to go through Capital Robotics to solve that problem, which during the class, I told him we had a battery issue on day 1, and he kept telling me, oh, I'll send you an email, I'll send you an email. I still haven't gotten an email. It's over a week, but whatever on that. Moving on. All right, here we are again. Now that we went over the basic structure of the class, I want to talk about things that I didn't like about the Capital Robotics welding course. Now, when I was in undergraduate, I took ancient Greek. Now, why is studying ancient Greek useful? Well, the reason it's useful is because a lot of the times when we read an ancient text, we are reading a translation of it. I was born speaking English, so I'm going to read an English translation of, Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. Now, I'm trusting that translator to translate those ideas correctly and tell me whatever truths are in that book. So I'm once removed from the source. And that is the whole reason you study languages for translation, so you can actually get the real meat and potatoes without hearing somebody else's, or having somebody else's outside input onto the text itself. Now, going back to robotics, OTC makes the robot. Capital Robotics distributes the robot. Capital Robotics is therefore a middleman. And when it comes to learning how to use a Japanese robot, I would rather talk to the Japanese gentleman who made the robot over an American guy who's trying to sell the robot. And not only that, Capital Robotics, I don't really know this for sure because I don't, know about the businesses that much, but in my opinion, it seems like all Capital Robotics does is build this cell. Robots you can buy and operate by themselves without a safety box around it. And if you want proof of that, just look on my YouTube channel. I have a video of a robot in operation at BP Aerospace here in Dallas, and there were no restrictions. You know, if the robot was in complete operation, spraying plasma, which meant that there was an ear hazard, an eye hazard, and an inhalation hazard, sometimes we would still go in there to make minor adjustments to a fixture. And there weren't any emergency stops or anything like that. We were aware of the dangers and we took it into consideration and did our jobs. So there are no legal requirements to have a cage around a robot. And like I said before, I have video evidence of that at a company here in Dallas. Now, I asked the instructor, you know, how do we remove the training wheels? How do we take this box off? Because one of the robots in class was just like that. And he told me, oh, we couldn't because of OSHA. Now, Hanlon's razor, you know, never attribute to malice what can be explained by ignorance. I took an OSHA course to be an instructor myself, and I never remembered anything about robotics. Nothing was really ever mentioned. So I did my due diligence, and I went to the OSHA website. And according to OSHA, there are no guidelines when it comes to robotics. So basically, I mean, like, I don't know this for certain, but it seems like, you know, you're buying a robot from OTC, and then Capital Robotics makes a cage around it that limits your robot and then charges you for that cage and charges you for all the maintenance and part swapping and all that stuff. So that's one thing I really, really didn't like, is dealing with a middleman, and on top of it, dealing with a middleman who restricts my machine. Now, I'm just an employee, so I'm just gonna have to deal. But if I shelled out $250,000, $500,000, whatever it is for one of these robots, and you're basically saying, okay, like, you have limited range of motion because of your safety, I would really think twice about buying it. And the funny thing about this is that, you know, I was born and raised in California, and my instructor is from Texas. And I'm like, well, hey, you know, how do we, you know, take the safeties off? And the Texan was like, we need to follow OSHA. Don't mess with Texas. Moving on.
No disassemble!
Okay, so how would I fix this robotics course? Because personally, I don't think it's worth the money, to be honest with you. I mean, like, this course probably cost, if you're flying somebody into this course, probably looking at $5,000. Is it worth $5,000? No. No, never. It's a waste of your money. Now, how would I improve it to make it worth $5,000? Well, oh, sorry about that. Well, let's see what they went over in their 4 days. They went over safety, basic programming, advanced programming, practicing welding joints, and then syncing items or some more hardware stuff. So what else do you do, or how do you make that better? Well, 4 days. Okay, so safety, nonsense, especially since you have a non-OSHA person talking about safety. So that could be, don't get near the robot while it's moving. Safety could be done in 5 minutes. Basic programming and advanced programming could be crammed into the first day, even with a little bit of practice on both. Day 2, welding simple joints all day, 8 hours straight. And not just T-joints, because that's all they limited us to at Capital Robotics. The easiest thing the robot could do. Challenge us, you know, show me that your instructor actually knows what he's doing. Make a part. I dare you, because that's what we're gonna have to do. That would be an impressive demonstration. But showing us a T-joint, I can literally take somebody off the street and show them how to MIG weld a T-joint within a day or two, and TIG weld probably in a couple of weeks. So I can show a complete novice with zero experience how to hit a T-joint. Show me how to make a part. And lastly, I will spend the next 2 entire days on fixtures and jigs and work holding. And this is probably one of the most important aspects of robotics in general. I would say knowing jigs and fixturing is more important than learning how to drive the robot. Learning how to drive the robot, somebody could teach you relatively quickly. Jig and fixture design, That's hard. That's the engineering aspect of it. That's the thing that the instructors don't want to touch, don't want to mention while you're in class. You know, you try to show them apart. They'll be, I just know how to drive the robot and talk about DC wave pulse and all that stuff. So yeah, this is the meat and potatoes, jig and fixture design. And there's plenty of other books online. You can buy them. This one I found for free at an archive site, and I'll leave the link to this one below. And yeah, it might just be jigs and fixtures for certain things, but I mean, a jig and a fixture, whether you're working on wood, metal, whatever, they hold items and they allow tools to pass through them. So, same general principles.
One shall stand, one shall fall.
Okay, before we end the video, I just want to show you one more thing after this. It will be the robot welding a joint, and then me, myself, welding a joint side by side. So you're going to see a quote-unquote speed comparison. Now, this isn't really scientific by any means, but a couple of things to consider is that the robot has an advantage over me when it comes to welding this aluminum joint, because the robot is using a MIG welding process, which is much, much faster than TIG welding. And yeah, a person manually TIG welding, that's what you're trying to avoid when you buy a robot like this. So you get to see me against the robot. Now, how good of a welder am I? Well, for the sake of argument, let's just say I'm a shitty welder. I suck. I'm not good at all. So let's go with that. Have a good one. Peace.